Welcome back to cEDH Pickups. My name is Kai, aka Fervent Alchemist, and we have a special one here. I'm actually spectating my round one game from Ka0s. This is going to be cool. I'm actually going to be listening to, or we're going to be listening to the casters. I'm going to be looking at the chat. Chat's not in the video, but I'm going to be reading the chat, see what everybody thought of my plays. I just remember that I kept, I think it was like 2 lands, a mana crypt, Chrome Mox, and a Jace. It looks like I have 7 cards in here. So I had Chrome Mox, mana crypt, 2 lands, a Jace. It's the Jace Perfected Mind, a Faithless Looting, and there was 1 card. Oh, Portable Hole. So I had a Portable Hole in my hand. So my hand was based off of me drawing cards, so that's why I kept the Faithless Looting, because I can't pitch the Portable Hole under the Chrome Mox. So I had to actually draw the cards, which you're going to see on my my first turn. Well, that's the plan. My plan is just to draw the cards and see where it goes from there. These first early turns should be kind of quick. So as you're seeing right here, I am actually casting the Faithless Looting. I'm looking for that second card that I can pitch to Chrome Mox. The casters actually did say that in the beginning, that Narset is kind of hard to cast, and you kind of want it down like super early, and you need those color pips. So I do have the Chrome Mox for that and the second land for that. So my idea is to get Narset down by turn 2. I didn't have anything to cast under the Chrome Mox, so I didn't play it. I actually didn't even play the Mana Crypt in my hand, because if somebody or one of the other 3 red players plays a Dockside Extortionist, then we might just lose at that point. I expect every other player to just be greedy and just play all of their rocks, even though they can't cast anything. So I don't want to give anybody a free game unless I can do something about it. And if I'm going to develop, I'm going to develop under what my deck's supposed to do. I'm not going to play rocks and just pass the turn, Because I think if Sisay definitely would be the person to mulligan for a Dockside, because that is one of the combo pieces in the deck. I would give them 2. I would just give them 2. I would give them 2 treasures from me, which I can't sacrifice. The Najeela player is not going to crack that Lotus Puddle because they want to play their Najeela. And Alex is kind of stuck in the water here with the Soul Ring. He needs the extra mana, maybe for an early Kenrith or something like that. But I'm not going to be the person that feeds the Dockside if I have nothing to cast. So I don't want to give anybody the impression that I have something to cast, or I'm going to be super far ahead of them, because I would be. I would be about, say, 2 mana ahead of everybody else if I did that. And I don't want eyes on me. I don't want them to see that I'm going to be playing Narset next turn. So I got to keep inconspicuous, stay under the radar, predict this turn 2 Najeela, and see what happens here.
The Electrum doesn't really matter as much as a more turbo version would, so you can be a little more loose with it. Plus, you have warriors, you can kind of protect yourself a bit more.
And then they are playing the Secret Lair version of it. Might I add, it is quite gorgeous if you guys have not seen it. It is by far one of my favorite artworks for Najeela. It's called Archeon the Everchosen. It's based off the Warhammer series. It's just kind of a cool, like, actual looking commander, right? It's just, Najeela herself is always cool, but like when you can get a different kind of art, adds a little, nuances. Ooh,
I enjoy it.
By the Kenrith here. That is very scary. That is a piece of a Echo there, if you know how it runs out a little bit.
So I know Skirk has some combo potential in certain situations, but I can't think of anything that it does in Kenrith specifically, especially when I look at this particular player's list.
So I'm predicting a dockside from Alex there. Alex is a really huge dockside deck. Scarab Prospector is a part of the combo, which you can then sacrifice Goblin, any Goblin, which dockside is a Goblin, and then make infinite mana, return into play with Kenrith. I assumed if he has Scarab Prospector in play, there is a potential dockside coming down. However, I want to give him the impression that that I'm going to have like deflecting swap mana up. So I'm going to drop this early Narset here. And if he doesn't have it, then I'm going to have a Narset. I can predict maybe a Vampiric Tutor from the Najeela player. I'm predicting like a Vampiric Tutor from the Najeela player. So we'll see, and I can pick that up, cast Faithless Looting from the graveyard, and see what I can get from there. Either way, I still have a Faithless Looting that I can just cast for free, and then I'll be able to have maybe 4 to 5. Oh, I have 5 mana up, and if I draw a land, maybe I'll have 6. So it's gonna look pretty good for me. If there is a dockside from anybody, then I'm fucked, and I mean that seriously. But the Sisay player, I don't know what they're going to do. It's either a turn 2 Sisay or a turn 2 dockside or something like some kind of stacks piece might come down. Some kind of tutor. You never know what you're going to get with Sisay, so I was kind of prepared for that. So I'm just going to play Narset and see if it's a big threat to the table, because it shouldn't be, because there isn't much in the graveyard besides Faithless Looting. So we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, exactly, because you don't want to be developing out too early, and they might have been holding on, looking for another card to throw under the Chrome Mox. That's another play that we have to factor in as well.
Yep, yeah, they guessed it right.
Really
I was holding on to the hold for another card to pitch under the Chrome Mox.
They threw out under there a Jace, right? The 4-mana Brainstorm Jace, I think that's what that one is?
Yes.
Yeah. Just because you don't really want to have to get rid of like potential cards that might help. So maybe this is the card that they prefer to throw under the Chrome Mox versus another card in their hand, right? So kind of digging a little bit to kind of help to figure out what you can throw under the Chrome Mox is kind of what I like to do sometimes, because especially if you don't want to throw it out early, there's some cards you just don't want to get rid of in your hand. If you can find something better, dig a little bit.
Yeah, they're exactly right. That's the only reason why I did that. I actually really wanted to keep that Jace because that is a second Brain Freeze in my deck. So if somehow my Brain Freeze gets exiled, then I would actually have Jace to back it up. But people aren't playing that. People's CMC can't handle that because usually they're running Ad Nauseam when they're playing Breach. But, Jace is a really good inclusion. Shout out to Callahan from the Mind Sculptors for putting that on the radar. And yeah, the casters definitely guessed that right.
Like, okay, I can sacrifice this late game plan later on for this early value. I think it's okay to do that.
Oh, I agree as well. Imperial Seal from the
Yep.
Sisay player.
Here we go.
That's interesting. How do you feel about Imperial Seal here?
I personally don't like it in decks that don't have a way to rip the card off pretty much immediately and have to rely on a cantrip or another card to kind of pull it. So with Najeela, I've actually gotten off of Imperial Seal and have been more on some respect. Being more versatile in finding my commander for my Adnos plans, to find my Tinder Wall, maybe find, Elvish Spirit Guy.
So I was actually wrong. The Najeela didn't cast me True. It was actually an Imperial Seal from the Sisay player. So I'm going to take that, probably. I'm going to take that, and I'm probably going to cast Faithless Looting from the graveyard and then, get a card off of that. But yeah, it's free food for Narset. And I don't think anybody realizes that. And I think people... they're clicking on Narset. They're clicking on Narset right now, so let's see.
To be the dock side,
or mana, at least, or some sort of mana production, right?
Yeah, so we assumed that he's getting dockside. That's what everybody assumed. So I think Najeela here, I think they might crack their Lotus Petal in their next turn. They might try to get some value out of that. Like I said earlier, Dockside's a huge part of two of these decks. And one person getting into play would be enough. So we assumed that like maybe it's probably over on their turn. But if I draw some card that maybe like mills a player or something like that, maybe I'll be able to get to it. But that Imperial Seal is looking pretty tasty to me right now.
Find me a 3 CMC card.
Well, it's interesting too because Neoform has extra utility in this situation because you could actually Neoform the Sisay.
Yeah.
So you have Dockside, Neoform Sisay. You can actually find a meal to demonstrate the infinite mana combo that way.
Now, I'm wondering where the Najeela will swing. I think I'd be incentivized to swing at the Birds player because I feel like Accepted might be inclined to killing a 1/1 by just throwing Skirk in front of it and delaying a play, right? Because Skirk is good, but Skirk isn't necessary. I feel sometimes I'm okay with sacrificing a 1/1 because my next turn I'm going to have my Kenrith in play. Najeela is not going to have ability to produce more warriors, right? Because once we get more than 2 warriors, once they get up to 4 warriors, it's kind of hard to stop them from progressively getting further and further.
All right, so the cast made an interesting point. We actually did bring up the who's Najeela going after at this point. And Alex definitely did say, I will block. And the Sisay player said, maybe I might not block. Who knows? I'm definitely blocking because that's partially the reason why I played Narset. Not only does it give me advantage, it also blocks Najeela pretty hard. Kills it in an instant. So he went right to attack. Went right at Booty Slayer, 69.
You know, I'm going to hedge my bets on them not having it yet. That's how I kind of play here.
Very possible. Ooh. The snap coming down early. Okay. Yep.
Getting rid of Narset. Very interesting.
So, for a time, I was looking at Narset to build because I really like her ability. But I did find that was a weakness of the deck. That you have to play Narset and pass. And in the current state of the format, doing that is not great. There's so much creature removal in decks right now that passing and hoping to untap isn't enough in most situations. And that's why you see like a lot of these Narset builds have to run things like Lightning Greaves, both to protect their commander and get the haste for more immediate value.
And like as you can see, that's also the bane with the other Narset decks, right? Because Narset as a commander has always historically has to wait a turn before it can really kind of go off. And so a lot of those interaction points can really hurt the deck, especially when, even if you get the boots down, if the opponent has the mana and removes the Narset before you can equip it, right? You just kind of slow down multiple turns and can't really progress yourself as far and can be very, very annoying. So
yeah, watch this shit.
For sure. And we do see that, Fervent has to play the Narset down again using most of their mana and being able to play a 1-drop, which I believe is actually... Oh, they had the mana flowing, so now here is the Lightning Greaves. So they did have that like we were talking about. Okay. So, very potential we see that...
I have plans that I cannot share with you right now because the haters will sabotage me. I have plans that I cannot share with you right now because the haters will sabotage me. I have plans that I will not share right now because the haters will sabotage me. But I got some stuff in the work.
Having to tap a mana, like your mana crypt to get the Lightning Greaves, so you're still slowed, right?
Yes and no, because Narset's ability now lets you make up some of that tempo by casting something for free from the bin. And there just happens to be a top deck tutor in the bin, courtesy of the Sisay.
Yeah. So now
I think I actually pass here so I can keep blocks up for Najeela. Because I was predicting that the Sisay player got a Jeweled Lotus or a dockside and put it on top so they could get Sisay out, and then the blocks would be very great. We can get the Najeela off the board, but I don't think that's what they got from what I remember. I just wasn't going to let them get a free attack, and I wasn't going to Imperial Seal because it seemed a little too slow. I could have hit the snap, but I don't think I have any 2-drops in my hand. This person plays Adrana and Lavala, which is A-okay from me because there are 2 decks here with activated abilities on them, and I'm okay with that. I don't want those on the battlefield. Yeah, they can have all the abilities here. I think I do have a deflecting swat in my hand, I believe. It's either a deflecting swat or a fierce guardianship, maybe. Yeah, I just didn't want anybody to actually, yeah, I did have I think I had a deflecting swat in my hand. So I let the snap resolve so I could put the Narset back in my hand because I already had the Lightning Greaves in my hand, and I was just going to drop it back down anyway with a little bit more protection. I don't think people respect Narset enough, so I was just going to let them do it. I figured they would let me do it, and they actually did, so you can see Booty Slavers holding on to the Force of Will. But yeah, I think you do kind of have to respect Narset. However, I also feel like if I were anybody else, I wouldn't waste a Force of Will on a Lightning Greaves when I could just play Narset again for 6 and I completely have enough mana to do so. Or if I play the Narset, then I can swing next turn, put the Lightning Greaves on Narset again, so it doesn't matter in that case. So yeah, I wouldn't waste a Force of Will on that. I wouldn't waste a Force of Will pretty much on anything in my deck, honestly. which is kind of silly to say. Like, yeah, of course you're gonna counter spells, but like, yeah, I guess the use out of it is just resolving. But without Narset out, I feel like countering my spells is pretty good. But either one of those spells that I played would have been a really good forcible target, but you're going to need that for like a Derevi or something, like a Derevi, a Grim Hireling, something that's a little hard to counter. In this case, he hit a Mana Drain. And honestly, I have no idea what he was going to do with that mana, but that would have shut off the Najeela player very hard.
We do just see, though, that they pass no activation. Kenrith draws and passes. Narset is here, untapping. So it will be interesting to see if Narset has to stay back as a blocker here.
I think their Najeela's at the 3.
Okay, so I untapped. I'm not really sure what the plan is going to be here. I could cast Faithless Looting and see what I get here. I don't remember what I had in my hand at this point, but I know I'm definitely going to attack. I'm not going to sit in this game and not go to attack. Najeela's already developed their board state, and if there's any point to wipe the board, the time is now. So we'll see here. I'm pretty sure I'm casting Faithless Looting. Yep, flashing it back. Wow, I'm so predictable. I am me, so makes sense. All right, let's see what I got here. Let's check in with the casters are saying.
Mm-hmm.
So tapping 3 mana here.
Yep, drop the last chance. Try to put a win on the stick.
Funny name in chat.
Flashbacked. Oh.
Yeah, I have a
funny
win
they
here.
did swing in on the last turn. Last chance. And Portable Hole. So some good hits that you can get there. Portable Hole can really put in some utility work. Be interesting to see. Yeah,
Such a good card for 1 mana for like this format. It's amazing.
it is.
Now I'm just curious on where they go from.
So I think I have a Fervent Mastery in my
They
hand.
have options, right? There's definitely some different lines of play, and when every graveyard is your playground, it feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I have everybody's graveyard, and I had a last chance, and I think I have a Fervent Mastery.
But there's some decisions to be made.
So, like, Fervent Mastery is a recent card that I put in since my last video, but it's basically a triple gamble. Search your library, put 3 cards in your hand, and you can just get LED, Breach, and Savine's Reclamation, and it doesn't matter what you discard because Narset's going to be able to cast one of them, which is the Underworld Breach or the Savine's Reclamation mainly. But I just needed to take an extra turn, get my 5 mana down. I've had the Grand Abolisher probably for the last 3 turns, or 2 turns, I think. I just remember it was one of my most recent draws. But yeah, I'm trying to put a win attempt on the stack right now. Oh yeah, he also said that he needed me to cast one more spell in order to Mindbreak Trap it. And they're all discussing like what's going on. They're like, "Oh, he can win," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm definitely gonna try to win right here." Alex knows my deck, so he's like, "Yo, like he's gonna swing, he's gonna cast the Last Chance, he's gonna have a untap, free reign on his next turn." Booty Slayer's asking like, "Hey, can somebody cast 3 spells right now?" Just joking, and yeah, I think the Najeela player is the one with the response. To be honest, I don't know what he's thinking about. It's not that hard. Grand Abolisher goes in the stack. Just get it out of here. So let's see what the casters are saying right now.
Grand Abolisher is just basically a loaded gun because eventually you are going to try to win, and if they don't remove it at some point, you're going to be protected almost certainly.
Oh yeah, 100%. So it's tapping 3 mana here from the Najeela player. Seeing what they can maybe do. They're saying maybe an intuition.
Intuition. Interesting. So this provides a lot of power for the Najeela player because not only can they get a combo piece of some kind in their bin, because are they on Breach? They might not be on Breach.
Jeans.
Okay, they are on Breach, yeah. So they could present, okay, here's a counter spell, and here is Underworld Breach, Savine's Reclamation.
Yep. Easy.
So here's the thing. Yeah, somebody in the chat, well, Punny said in the chat, they are just giving Kai the intuition, and he was completely right. So even when he intuitions, he's going to get a 3rd card. I'm going to exile that card. I think he got a Druid's Repository, a Savine's Reclamation, and like a Force of Will or something. But I was hoping that he got Pact Negation and didn't have another blue card to pitch to Force of Will, because I think I had something else in my hand that could have stopped it. I think I had like a Flusterstorm or something. I don't remember. I remember it was a very specific situation, and I needed them to just have the Pact Negation or a Force of Will for the lack of blue cards in hand. But I thought this was my opening, and I think this is what it was. I just remember him giving me a intuition. So like the 3rd spell I cast is going to get Mindbreak Trapped, and that's what Booty Slayer was telling everybody. He's like, hey, and once he casts his 3rd spell, I'm just going to Mindbreak Trap it. So I have to make sure that the next card that I play isn't that bad enough for him to want to Mindbreak Trap it, because then he can keep mana up and maybe keep the Mindbreak Trap open for another creature spell. And that was my hope. So I think I just let this one go because it was like kind of like a do or die kind of situation. I think I had more interaction in my hand, and that's what mattered. I think that's what mattered to me the most. It's just surviving the turn cycle and make sure that people use their cards on stuff that I can get back easily. If I go ahead and try to cast the intuition, Booty Slayer is going to Mindbreak Trap it, and there's no point. There's absolutely no point. And I want him to keep that Mindbreak Trap. I think I'm good with casting 2 spells a turn, so I don't get Mindbreak Trapped. And I think there was also a discussion on how to remove creatures on the turn cycle, because if nobody has a response, they were talking about removing the Grand Abolisher within the turn cycle. And I think Booty Slayer also said he had some kind of removal for it. And I was like, wow, okay. That seems great. But yeah, either way, I think this intuition works better for me. Although this Abolisher's on the stack. If he does get a non-creature spell to the graveyard, that's a permanent base for him to get back with Savine's Reclamation. I'm just going to exile it, or I might even try to put it on the stack, depending on how dangerous it is. Because if it's like a Druid's Repository or something like that, I'm definitely going to cast it.
Forgetting what certain commanders do is a very apparent thing in cEDH, and so this might just become a punt, right? Because they just gave them also a free, and I mean a free intuition, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. That's also something you can cast here, but Mind Break Trap, so if you get the counter spell here, then you have the Mind Break Trap that can counter the intuition. That saves you for probably a turn.
See, the only thing that stops the Grand Abolisher here, though, is specifically a hard counter spell. So they would need a blue, they would need a pact, right? If they want to grab a Force of Will or things around those things.
I do see what appears to be a Soul Partition and Cyclonic Rift kind of being teased here as well.
The only issue is that they don't actually stop thanks to the boots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if Grand Abolisher resolves, though, you can't use it.
Yes, but Soul Partition has a channel ability, right? So that gets a... No?
You're thinking of Touch of the Spirit Realm.
I am thinking of Touch of the Spirit Realm. You're right. Thank you.
No problem.
So yeah, that doesn't actually work here. Like,
yeah, he was saying that he was trying to get a Soul Partition or another bounce spell, but he realized that Narset had the Greaves on her, and again, that's why we play it. But yeah, he was thinking about getting 2 removal spells or like a removal spell, then Breach and Savines or something like that. But yeah, he was really trying to make this work for him, this intuition here. And yeah, he just gave me a free intuition. I think I noticed this a little bit too hard because I think I also had an intuition in hand, which kind of sucked. But yeah, you give him the... yeah, so he took Druid's Repository, Savine's Reclamation, and Force of Will. So the thing is, I could have just cast the Savine's Reclamation and put the Abolisher back in play, but then again, I wouldn't get the card for the attack. He's pitching Demonic Betrayal. I would have liked to have that card. But good thing it's gone. It definitely does resolve here because, good God, please don't keep that... please don't keep that Demonic Betrayal. And then we got Tad in the chat saying, "Oh, they just exile Savine's Reclamation." Nah, I tried to be better than that. I tried to be a little bit more inconspicuous. I would say better, but just more inconspicuous. So I just hit their Druid's Repository because they didn't have any other cards in their graveyard to flash back for, and they definitely do have enough mana here. I'm just trying to figure out who I'm going to attack, but I'm definitely taking that Druid's Repository here.
Savine's out of the Najeela player's bin, if nothing else.
Exactly.
Which I think is crucial here.
So it all depends on if they see that specific play, right?
Yes. Fervence, I think, knows this deck pretty well. I think he's top 16 with it before. So hopefully he is versed at kind of seeing those lines. The Last Chance 2 could also be something we see, like you were mentioning, because then you could have access to it next turn if you were trying to set something else up.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, because I'm seeing that Savine's Reclamation, right, it kind of helps your plays here.
So,
So
they actually did notice the Savine's Reclamation here, and they did notice the advantage that I would have, but like I said, I can only cast 2 spells this turn, and then the third one has to be inconspicuous. I don't want anybody getting sussed out because I cast one of their spells, so I'm going to hit that Druid's Repository and try to do my work. Politically, I told them I would hit the Druid's Repository and I could exile it, and if you wanted to use the Mind Break Trap, so be it. It's going to get exiled anyway. So we have one less problem to worry about.
And then you come back, right? That intuition still looking pretty nice on your next turn.
I'm kind of curious about this Sisay player playing a lot more reactive spells, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I think Sisay players are recognizing that they do need that on the stack reaction, which is good. And this one runs a lot of the combos too, but
yeah, it's called
being
Sisay Chain because they are on a lot, and I mean a lot, of Planeswalkers, which is very notable for Sisay, is you can play, and also on Chainer. That is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chainer is a good combo piece. The Planeswalkers are nice. It has Asika, which is a piece I don't love, but I know the value of it in the deck at least.
Yes.
Yeah. It's also on Grella, which I really love. I think more decks need to be on that. Just the utility it can offer is so good. Loris, Lotho, Rocco is a piece that I've seen some lists run just because it does let you tutor up in from hand another piece, like the Dockside, for example.
Oh, is this casting Druid's Repository?
Okay. So cutting out the middleman. That's interesting. What do you think about that?
It's free mana, right? Because when you attack with a creature, you can add a charge counter, and then with the charge counter, you can then gain 1 mana of any color. I think it's a fair idea because it essentially gives you a way to turn your commander being swung into a mana generation.
Mm-hmm.
It's cute, maybe. You're worried about the Najeela player here, but you're leaving them with the Savines at least. But leaving them with the Savines does open up the line of play of they get Fire Covenant. They go, cool, Najeela can stay in the graveyard. I'm going to Savines it back for 5, as well as getting another permanent in play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe the thought process is they're maybe thinking they could run things like Noxious Revival or Eternal Witness. So, if I get rid of the Savines, it's possible they'll still have a piece to bring it back.
I've always elected to be able to remove the piece that is enabling everything. So it's like Savines enables Breach, it enables the Najeela plan. You don't really care about what goes in the graveyard because you have a backup, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I even think being able to represent Savines to bring back the Grand Abolisher, like you mentioned, is really good. But maybe you don't want to force the Mindbreak Trap out of the Sisay player's hand. Maybe you want them to hold that up for another player down the road.
What is this? Worldly Tutor?
Yeah, I was just trying to get I was also trying to get advantage here. I just wanted the mana advantage, and it was inconspicuous enough to not make me look like a threat. It also hosed down the Najeela player. Alex came in real clutch with that Swan Song. Actually, during this game, I actually did see the Swan Song in his hand. He flashed it to me during the beginning of the game, or he flashed it to the table, not to me specifically. But you can see in the recording that he actually did flash the Swan Song. So cover your hands, boys and girls. And ladies, cover your hands. Because I definitely did see that, and I figured it would be a really good time to tap out here.
So interested to see if they can pull something together here, especially being in the 4th spot. It can be rough.
So swinging 7 damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that damage came in.
Kenrith notably still at 40.
Mm-hmm.
And we know... Mm-hmm.
I wonder what's going to happen here.
Be interesting.
I'm just kind of surprised that a Najeela player incentivized to be swinging at every deck but the Kenrith right now, it seems.
Yeah. And we know the Kenrith is on Nas. Mm-hmm. But they are opting just to put a counter on Kenrith instead, making it a 6/6 for the time being.
That's a big boy,
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Kenrith beats. That might be the backup plan here, because they are missing land drops. They don't have the colored mana that they need for some of their plans.
They have everything but black. which is a problem.
Yeah, and again, missing another land drop and just forced to pass the turn.
I think here you just kind of sit back, maybe use Kenrith to draw cards or make something bigger, or all depends on like, what you're gonna do here. I think maybe drawing a card here, as they do have the blue available.
Yeah, I think you definitely draw a card at the end step, but it just is unfortunate they don't have more to do right now because it looks like maybe 2-3 cards in hand, no land drops to be made for the pass.
All right, so here I'm setting up for my second win attempt. I'm just trying to figure out what 2 spells I can cast so I don't eat the Mindbreak Trap.
Been left alone. The Lightning Greaves hasn't even been touched, and Intuition is still in that bin.
As well
I think
as
if
Sadine's, right?
Yeah.
So if they have a spell to cast here, I think they're looking pretty here.
Yeah. Hopefully they do. They just need to get that one prowess trigger, but we'll see if they can get that now. 3 cards in hand for them as well, it looks like. Curious to see what they can do here.
So if they can get that prowess trigger here, they may as well they might just be able to win, right? Because they can swing with Narset, exile a go. 5.
I think you have to.
Oh.
All right. I can't tell what that card art is.
I'm pretty sure.
Fervent Mastery. Okay.
You search your library for up to 3 cards, put them into your hand, then shuffle card, discard 3 cards at random. So essentially, it's a tutor for 3, discard 3. If you're on the Breach plan, it's basically search for 3 cards to help you with your Breach for 5 mana. It's Red's tutor, which is actually not bad.
In this deck, it's really good. It's very good. Yeah, you can just tutor up the pieces you need. Important prowess trigger.
Yeah, everybody's passing turns right now.
The Pie Overlord says in the chat, he's doing the thing that's his name. Yup, that's me. But yeah, Fervent Mastery is a decent card. I actually kind of swapped it for what's the card? Traumatize. I swapped it for Traumatize because I could just pick up 3 cards and then just win the game at an efficient level. I won't have to like drop half of my library and put a 50-50 chance. I could just do it 100% and then find 3 cards. And then also the alternate cost isn't actually as bad as I thought, because it does require your opponents to discard cards out of their hand, which means Narset can just cast the cards out of their hand, the cards that they discarded. But most often in those times when you cast it for 4, your opponents are looking for interaction, so they might even discard their Breach because they have Savine's Reclamation in hand, and they might forget about Narset, and then you can just swing, cast a Breach, or exile it. It's free. It's free food. So I chose the first spell for me to cast is the Fervent Mastery, because I'm trying to sneak this Breach in under the Mindbreak Trap, but I feel like somebody has some interaction. I'm kind of avoiding my last chance here because I feel like somebody has a silence, like the Najeela player probably has a silence, Alex probably has a silence, but we'll see. But here's the discards. I asked somebody to let me keep 2 cards, and we'll see the reveal.
Do you block the Najeela?
That's 3. That's 17. Oh, yeah, if you
Well,
block the Najeela.
if you block the Najeela, yeah, but which doesn't. It's just fine. You can block it with Narset,
But then a single Najeela activation.
Yeah. But then you do force the Najeela activation.
Everything that he probably tutored.
Yeah. I mean, the Grim Monopo's probably in hand before, so probably like an LED still in hand, that piece. Maybe a silence effect.
I think probably if you're going for the idea of take an extra turn, right? Yeah, see, casting that final fortune here. Looking to win here at this point.
Mm-hmm. So I think, yeah, if the card in hand is Silence, you're golden, because then you can Silence, you could bring back the Intuition.
there's
Oh,
song.
okay.
Interesting. They maybe drew that for turn because they could have used that on accepted Swan Song, you know?
Yeah. It's possible that they could have done that. Maybe they didn't want to get into that counter war because... Yeah, I don't know. Or they may also not have had the blue at the time, too. They may have been tapped out on blue.
Yeah, they had the ignoble and the land there. I think they might have just tapped the land by mistake instead of tapping the ignoble for the green to Worldly Tutor there.
Yeah. But
I've got...
So at this point, I have LED in my hand. I had made 2 mana off of the repository. I'm trying to see if Booty Slayer will let this LED through them cheeks, actually. So I have 1 mana off of the repository, and I have 1 land, and then I have LED. So right now, I'm looking for them to eat the Savine's Reclamation, because I can just go ahead and try it again on my following turn. Because I don't think anybody here is going to be casting more than 1 spell. And also, he promised to wipe the board from Najeela and Kenrith. So I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot to just, let this rip here, eat the Mindbreak Trap, so I don't have to eat it on the following turn.
so, yeah, unless, again, that last card is the Silence. They have the City of Brass, right?
Mm-hmm.
So...
But then they still only have 4 mana, right? Because they have 1 plus 3 plus 1 that's 5. They have exactly enough right now for exactly Savine's right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just going all in. They know about the Mindbreak Trap.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
What card is that? That's not Angel's Grace, is it? No.
No, it's the guard. Maybe 1 second. I think it's an instant here. Yeah, Surge of Salvation. You and permanents you control gain hexproof until end turn. Prevent all damage that black and slash or red sources would deal to creatures you control this turn. So it's just a protection piece, right?
Yeah, discard.
Yeah.
Yeah, discarding it to the LED, it sounds like, is all.
Yeah, so I actually wanted that LED in my graveyard. I was hoping he would just lay it through. And I figured this would be a really good Mindbreak Trap target while I didn't have a hand. Surge of Salvation is there in case I could try to get Besaju'd from somebody. Yeah, because it'll give my permanents hexproof, so Bridge is in play, obviously. Then I can just cast that again. But yeah, I was just trying to eat that Mindbreak Trap so I wouldn't have to see it on my next turn. And I was just going to cast the Breach from my graveyard. But a crucial mistake here is I didn't realize that the Najeela player had, or Carl, I remember his name, Carl. So Carl had a Savine's Reclamation in his graveyard. Totally forgot about it. That would have changed probably my whole perspective on this game. If I remembered that Carl had a Savine's Reclamation there, then I would have been fine. But I'm going to try to win the game again. But yeah, that's my second win attempt stopped. I've tried to win the game last turn, this turn, and I'm probably going to try to win it again. So let's see how it happens.
They've been putting up a good show of everything, too.
I'm wondering where you're at right now. Because if you're the Najeela player, are you incentivized to kill Fervent here or force another player to do it?
I don't think another player can kill Fervent.
Kenrith can. Kenrith can give trample. With a single red.
Yeah, so like you're saying, I see what you're saying, yeah. Like you swing into here and then you can make the Kenrith swing in. I think that's what you try to do for sure. I don't think
you're more incentivized to kind of spread your damage to first get Fervent down low enough that his life total is a threat, right?
Mhm.
And then I might be inclined to activate my Najeela here to swing at the other two players. Maybe just solo out at the Sisay.
So this is like really, really good commentary from the commentators. So we were actually discussing the possibility of dying to Najeela. I think we actually brought this up. So because he has a Fire Covenant in hand, he knows he can't target my Narset, and in order to let this go through, or let the Narset go through, in order to let the Fire Covenant go through, and for them to not kill me, I told Booty Slayer that I wouldn't attack him for the rest of the game. I figured that would be a really good deal. He's at 24. He's going to have to pay a bunch of life into destroying these creatures. So I told him, I'm not going to attack you anymore. Your life total's safe from me. And if he wipes the board from Carl and Alex, then we're good to go. I can go ahead and, so he's ripping it right now. So this is going to be a really good attempt on my next turn. If Kenrith's off, Najeela's off, there's no Fierce Guardianship or Deflecting SWAT. And then I can just chill out and try to go for it again.
And probably deal with the actual other problem, the Mana Dorks, like Mana Dork, Najeela, and Kenrith here. That's probably who I'd be killing.
Scar Prospector too, I think, for sure.
Yeah, true. Just mana production, right?
Yeah.
So you'll have to hit Kenrith for 7, so that's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 life. So you go down to 13.
It still isn't great though, because then all the warriors are still there. Your life total is still at risk.
Yeah, so you...
And if this is done on the Sisay player's turn, which I believe it is...
No, it's on their turn because they had tapped out for Sisay the last turn. So this is during their main phase.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. If it's on the Sisay player's turn, then that just means that Najeela could be recast, and a bunch of other warriors are going to come down still. So, curious to see how this will result. Because I think the Sisay player does need to do something. They need to slow down the game, because they need time to develop.
I'm wondering this is a hard decision to make with how to get rid of stuff.
I'm curious to see, because it is interesting why they do it here, because you could make your argument you do it on the Narset's main phase, but drawing a card in response from the Kenrith.
Down to 8 life. Oof.
And if you're Narset, you're ecstatic here.
All of the threat is gone. I think here, if I was the Sisay player, I probably would have waited a turn. I would have just passed. It's an instant speed. You don't need to be using it as sorcery here, right? And then you wait to see how Najeela attacks the Fervent, brings him down low enough, and then fire a Covenant. I think that's the best play. Or even wait for, like, basically you swing. You wait till Najeela goes to combat. You tell them they need to swing at Fervent, right? And then you can fire a Covenant, getting rid of majority of the board, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think that even if Najeela activates, you can kind of respond to the activation there if you're going to clear the board anyway, right?
You did save life, though, which is the important part.
Yeah. Oh, is that a breach in Kenrith's hand? So a lot of scary pieces in player's hand. It's just whether or not they have the mana to actually cast.
Alex here leaking his hand. Alex, stop leaking your hand, bro. Stop leaking your hand. We can see it.
Oh my gosh. This game is just weird.
The strangest thing, too, they left the Noble Hierarch alive and the Skirk Prospector.
Which is a little scary, in all honesty.
It is. I would have much rather left Warrior alive and killed the Ignoble than leave the Ignoble alive if I'm going to wipe the board anyway.
Yeah, because the big thing here is if you think about it, they still have a 2/2 bird. Exalted 3/3 is a death sentence for the Sisay in 3 turns.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'd be swinging it. Oh, Arcane Signet. There we go. Finally getting that black.
They don't know I made a deal to not to attack them.
Because again, too, like, if Narset doesn't win, which I find that very unlikely that they don't win if they untap here, they have potential for the long run. But it's not a Wishclaw Talisman.
And we already know that they have Breach in hand. That's just a win next turn.
I don't think they're gonna.
They bled the Breach, remember?
Yeah, but I don't think they're gonna get next turn. And even if it is, I don't know if it's a win because they don't have a big enough hand or graveyard, I think.
I mean...
So I top deck some gas here. And they're also right about Alex. I did actually see that Breach in his hand. Because I figured if I don't get it here, I would let the table know that Alex has a Breach in his hand. But I hit the Merchant Scroll. That's going to put my prowess up by 1. Usually when I play Merchant Scroll, I'm going to go get an Intuition. So I'm going to go get an Intuition right now.
These players are bleeding all their cards here.
Yeah. But they have 2 cards, so maybe there's a counter spell, but it's going to be rough.
I think if I'm the Najeela here, if I have Vampiric Tutor, I think I might just find Breach.
Again, I don't think it's going to matter. I don't think you get to that point. Because, yeah, we have the Intuition coming down.
Mm-hmm.
I think this might be it.
Yeah,
I think it will be. Because Breach is still in the bin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's my plan. I was going to Intuition. I know Final Fortune is going to be in that pile. And I think Final Fortune is going to be in that pile. Yep, there it is. Final Fortune is in the pile. I don't remember what else was in my pile as well. Let's see. So if I'm casting Merchant Scroll, it has to be something that they don't want to give me. So I was trying to make it really, really hard for them. I think one might have been... Oh, no. Not thinking here. I think... I don't know. All I know is I really wanted that Final Fortune. That's all I know. Final Fortune, SWAT for interaction, and I think the third one's, Fierce Guardianship. Just in case. But what I actually should have gotten, instead of SWAT, I think I should have gotten another like hard counter. Because I was just gonna try to win again. I was gonna untap and try to win again. Yeah, I'm looking for Fierce Guardianship here.
Otherwise, it's just a GG, right? And
I
then
agree.
Then you tell the Kenrith, listen, you need to swing and kill at Narset, kill the Narset, and then you still have a time to then, Fire Covenant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can wipe the board, you're still alive, and then you're going into your turn after the Narset has died.
Mm-hmm. Often to give them the Final Fortune over the 2 protection pieces. So I believe they have
3 Final Fortune. That's the big thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, they have the last chance. So
but
it's like
they also have in their graveyard, thanks to Druid's Repository, right? They get 2 free mana here.
Yeah. So they can cast the last chance. If that's countered, they can cast, or even the Savines, they can then cast the Final Fortune as the backup and get another turn.
Casting another intuition here to kind of fill up that graveyard.
Okay. Interesting on that sequence. You would think. No, I guess it makes sense if you're really committing to the Final Fortune.
Right? You're just trying to see and have as many cards in the graveyard so that you're on your next turn, it's a guaranteed win, right?
So now you probably get 3 counter spells.
Probably Pact, Fluster, and something else.
Probably not Pact, because I don't know if you want to invest that much mana into it, but...
I mean, it's mainly for just to have it in your hand for the next turn, right? Coming up.
Yeah, I think your biggest thing is... the Teferi, though. That could be a good piece down the road, but getting the counterspell is good, too, just because it protects your Final Fortune plan, so you're not...
Silence. Just going for all the silences.
Yep. And the Ranger Captain. Yep. Okay.
Every silence you can have in white, you know?
Yep. All at your disposal. So, what do you give them here? Probably the Ranger Captain, I would say.
The creature, putting it in the graveyard's more important, so maybe.
So we do see that they could swing in. They still could exile a piece again, hoping to go for the draw. Maybe taking something out of the bin of one of the Underworld Breach players, if you think, or if you saw that they had that.
Now,
taking the silence out.
Going into the Najeela player's turn, we know that they have a Vampiric too.
Yeah, so I exiled Alex's silence. I also told everybody while I'm still alive that Alex has Breach in his hand, and he flashed it to us earlier, if they didn't notice. So if they wanted to prepare for it, I'm still playing for the draw. I didn't do it when I was dead because you're legally not allowed to advise your opponents when you're dead. You're not a part of the game, and it is an illegal action to take when you're dead. You can't say anything to your opponents or advise them. So I went to attack while I was silenced, and I was like, hey, yeah, Alex has Breach in hand. You should be prepared for it, so we can get that draw. I did exile a card from Alex's graveyard, so the Breach would be a lot less valuable. And fucking Artix here said, did this Shani die? This fucking guy. And as I predicted earlier in the game, Booty Slayer drops the dockside. Counts like 3 right now, I think? Or 4? Oh, it's 3. I think, it's 3. Because I can't tell if that Grim Monolith is on the field or not. But, yeah. I wasn't predicting a win here. There's Saheeli Rai. He's doing a lot right now.
Do they have enough to get a meal?
Dockside. Pay fall, but it's 5. You
don't have enough to activate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they have enough exactly for...
Oh. What? Why are you casting Final Fortune here? You're next in priority.
Bro, I was so confused. I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. I gotta know why you cast that, Carl. If you're watching this video, I gotta know why you cast that, because you are next in priority and you just die. So I gotta figure this out.
Oh, so they did cast it. Interesting. Because he doesn't draw anyone a spell. I don't know. Yeah, it's weird.
So they have a dockside copy. Up to 7.
Yeah, I think this is Aminatu or bust, but it's weird that the Najeela player denied themselves a turn. Maybe they were just showing that they had it. Maybe.
So the Najeela player noticed that Booty Slayer is tapped out. He noticed that he was short on mana. So maybe he thought, this is a chance for me to get my turn in where they don't have mana up. Because if Booty Slayer has their Final Fortune, theirs will resolve last, which means Carl gets to take an extra turn before Booty Slayer. But there's going to be 2 extra turns before Alex's turn. But he's going to win that by default, regardless. But if you're going to take a Final Fortune turn, there's no way you don't see a line here. But regardless, I think he was just predicting Booty Slayer's like Final Fortune or Last Chance or something like that. He knows he was tapped out, and he just wanted to get his in there so he could untap and make sure he gets another turn.
Yep, there's Aminatu.
Now you can flicker the dock side, go up to 6.
Play Nicol Bolas from your hand, have 1 treasure remaining. Then you can down tick.
You can flicker the dock side again.
Exactly. Make exactly 5.
Shooter out Oath of Teferi, right? Because then you get multiple down ticks from all your Planeswalkers, right?
So the way that combo works is, and we actually just released a short on this on YouTube, but Aminatu and Nicol Bolas, you can, like you said, flicker them back and forth. Basically, you get, with Oath of Teferi, you activate Planeswalkers twice. So what you do is, when you have Saheeli, you can uptick Nicol Bolas with Saheeli's ability, ping your opponents, then use the other activation to downtick Aminatu. Aminatu's a fresh copy. And then you use Aminatu to flicker Nicol Bolas. You can activate Nicol Bolas 2 more times, rinse and repeat back and forth, and you ping everyone to death.
6.
So it looks like they opted to make a copy of the Saheeli, or flicker the Saheeli, so they can make a copy of Dockside again. Okay, so representing more bodies, which is good.
They all do have haste, which is actually kind of apparent, because if they were somehow thinking of, do they have it?
Yeah, they don't need to worry about combat here if they can do the combo they want to do. Yes, and we saw Nicol Bolas in hand earlier. It should come down now.
I mean,
Doubt anyone has a counter spell.
One thing they could have done. I'm wondering. What are they gonna find here?
Oh, they're activating. Okay.
Maybe find the Oath of Teferi first?
Yeah, you could do it that way. It puts Aminatu down low, which I don't necessarily love, but it's something you could do, yeah.
Because you then can re-flicker the Saheeli Ray, re-flicker the Dockside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely an option you can take.
So I popped in the chat, and I said I missed Carl Savine's reclamation. Huge L on my part. Yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't remember that Savine's reclamation there. Because I could have just put my Grand Abolisher in play. But I did not predict a win from Mr. Booty Slayer here. Oh, and there's Alex's girlfriend. Oh, very cute. We love to see real love on stream.
Still the same, I think, either way. You still end up with the same amount, regardless of which order you did it in. It's just preference on...
I think, though, at one point you go down to 0 with the original play. This way you're always having at least...
No, but you have 1 treasure up regardless, because you started at 6, Nicol Bolas cost 5, Sisay cost 5.
Yeah, but then you down tick, you go up to 5 treasures, right? Because you go down to 4. So you go down to 1 treasure if you hard play the Nicol Bolas, right? Because isn't he 5 or is he 4?
No, you go down to 1 either way, because you activate Sisay, you go down to from 6 to 1, you cast Nicol Bolas, you go down from 6 to 1, and then you do the same like flicker effect. It's just a matter of which way you start with it.
No, but I'm saying though is that the Dockside only makes 4 mana, right? Because if you did the original way, which was down to Dockside, he was at 7. He -5, went down to 2, grabbed that, went down to 6. If you would have hard played the Nicol Bolas there, he would have been at 1. Flicker would have went to 5 and then activated Sisay, he would have been at 0 at that point.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah. This way you always have mana available, right? If you somehow have an interaction piece.
No, because you go from 1 to 5, so either way you're down to 0 at the end of this.
Fair.
Yeah. because it's easy once this dockside makes 5 exactly, but in this case you had to do a bit more finagling.
So casting Dragon God, this is just GG here if no one has anything.
It presents an interaction point for counter magic though, so if there's anything, we could see it here.
Which we know that no player has anything, so.
Bro,
well, we can
expect,
yeah.
All right, so there's a chat from Wise Games. They said you definitely didn't get the best matching for Fervent Alchemist. Their 3-5C explosive dex is rough. Wasn't rough. I did everything I could. I was the only one who put a win attempt on the stack more than once. I was able to recover. I put a win attempt on the stack for the last 3 turns. It wasn't rough at all. I just didn't see the Serene Exclamation. That was just the L on my part.